All right, so are you ready for a deep dive into the animal kingdom? You brought some fascinating notes and excerpts from a biology textbook, and I can't wait to unpack this with you.
It's going to be quite a journey. From simple sponges to complex creatures like ourselves, exploring the animal kingdom helps us understand our own place in the grand scheme of life.
Okay, I'm ready for the ride. But let's start with something that really surprised me from your notes. It turns out most animals aren't those furry, feathery friends we typically picture. Apparently, a whopping 95% don't even have bones.
That's right. It challenges our assumptions, doesn't it? That means the vast majority are invertebrates, and they're incredible in their own right. Think about it. No bones means flexibility and adaptability, which allows them to thrive in all sorts of amazing environments.
That makes sense. So how do biologists define what makes an animal, especially if they're so diverse?
There are a few key traits. They're multicellular, meaning they're made up of many cells, and their cells have a nucleus which houses their DNA. Most reproduce sexually. But the biggest defining feature is how they get their energy.
So unlike plants that make their own food through photosynthesis.
Exactly. Animals have to ingest their food. They've evolved all sorts of incredible ways to hunt, gather, and consume other organisms. And this need to eat has shaped their evolution, their bodies, their senses, their behaviors. It's all connected.
Fascinating. So let's go back to the beginning. Way back, your notes mentioned that the earliest animals emerged about 700 million years ago in warm, shallow seas. What were they like?
Picture a world teeming with simple creatures, like sponges, jellyfish, and worms. They may seem simple compared to, say, a chimpanzee, but their emergence marked a pivotal moment in the history of life.
Sponges always seemed a little underwhelming to me. I mean, they're basically just blobs, right? How can they even be considered animals?
But that apparent simplicity is actually a clue to their evolutionary history. Their cells are so independent that if you were to separate a sponge into individual cells, they could actually reassemble themselves. It's like a protest colony taking things to the next level.
Wow, that's some serious cellular teamwork.
Yeah.
But then you have jellyfish with their stinging tentacles. That's a completely different strategy for survival.
Absolutely. Jellyfish, or cundarians as we call them, represent a big step in animal evolution. They develop stinging tentacles to capture prey, and they evolved a way to digest food outside their cells. This is called extracellular digestion, which allowed them to consume larger organisms and unlock new food possibilities.
Okay, so we have these early animals, but then things start to get more complex with the arrival of worms, right?
You're right, worm is a pretty broad term and encompasses a huge variety of phyla. But this is where we start to see crucial innovations like body symmetry. Jellyfish have radial symmetry, like a wheel, but worms introduce bilateral symmetry.
Like us. We're mirror images down the middle.
Precisely, and this development goes hand in hand with the evolution of a head end, where sense organs concentrate and movement becomes more directed. Think about how crucial that is for hunting escaping predators and navigating their environment.
That makes perfect sense. Your notes also mentioned something called the mesoderm. What's that all about?
Yes, the mesoderm. It's a third cell layer that develops between the outer and inner layers of cells. This might sound like a small detail, but it's a game changer for complexity. It allows for the development of more specialized tissues and organs, leading to more sophisticated body structures.
So jellyfish have two layers, but worms and everything after have this extra layer, giving them a whole new level of sophistication.
Exactly. It's like evolution unlocked a bonus level, opening up a world of possibilities for greater complexity.
Speaking of bonus levels, your notes mentioned this coelom business. What is that and why is it such a big deal?
The coelom is a fluid-filled body cavity found in more complex animals like earthworms. Imagine a garden hose, floppy, right? But fill it with water.
It gets firm and holds its shape. It provides structure.
Exactly. That's what the coelom does for these animals. It provides structural support for muscles, allowing for more efficient movement and quicker
It's
responses.
like an internal scaffolding that gives them strength and agility.
That's a great way to put it. But it's more than just structural support. It also allows for the development of longer, more complex digestive systems. And down the line, in vertebrates like us, it leads to separate cavities around organs.
Wow, so the coelom is a real game changer. Okay, we've got sponges, jellyfish, worms, but the animal kingdom is so much more than that. What comes next in this evolutionary saga?
Well, from here, things really branch out. We have mollusks, arthropods, chynoderms, and chordates, each phylum bringing a whole new set of innovations to the table.
Okay, I'm ready for a whirlwind tour. Hit me with the highlights. What makes each of these groups unique?
Let's start with mollusks. These are soft-bodied creatures, and most have a mantle that secretes a shell for protection. Think snails, clams, even squid.
Shells are definitely a useful invention. But what about arthropods? Your notes mentioned they're the champions of diversity.
And for good reason. They have jointed legs and exoskeleton for support and protection and specialized body segments. They've conquered land, sea, and air with over 800,000 insect species alone.
Wow, talk about evolutionary success. And gacoderms. Those are the spiny-skinned ones, right? I've always found them a bit intimidating.
They are a bit prickly. They're all marine animals like starfish and sea urchins. They have a unique water vascular system that helps them move, and their radial symmetry is a bit of a throwback to the jellyfish.
Back to that wheel shape. So that leaves chordates. That's our crew, right?
Yep, that's where we humans belong. Vertebrates are part of this phylum. The key features are a notochord, a dorsal nerve cord, and gill slits at some point in their development.
Gill slits. Even for land-dwelling chordates like us.
You got it. They often only appear in the embryo stage, but they're a reminder of our aquatic ancestry.
Mind blown. Okay, so we have this basic chordate blueprint. But how did we get from there to, well, tell me about the vertebrates.
The vertebrate story is an epic tale of adaptation and diversification. From jawless fishes to the incredible array of life on land and in water, it's a testament to the power of evolution. But it all starts with a crucial development.
Jaws.
Jaws. It seems so basic, but I guess you can't be a top predator without a good set of chompers. Exactly. Jaws revolutionized the way animals could capture and process food. It opened up a whole new world of dietary possibilities and paved the way for the evolution of diverse feeding strategies. Speaking of which, do you know how vertebrates transition from water to land?
I'm dying to know. Lay it on me.
Well, it all started with those lobe-finned fish, like the coelacanth we talked about earlier. Their sturdy fins eventually paved the way for limbs.
Wait, so are we saying that somewhere in our evolutionary history we had relatives that were basically fish with legs? That's kind of freaky, but also really cool.
It is pretty mind-blowing. It's a pivotal moment in vertebrate evolution. A whole new environment to conquer with challenges and opportunities galore. A classic tale of adaptation and survival of the fittest.
So who are these brave pioneers venturing onto land?
The amphibians. They were the first vertebrates to make that leap, but they were still tied to water for reproduction.
Ah, those amphibian limitations. But hey, you can't have it all, right? At least they were the first. So how did reptiles manage to break free from that dependence on water?
Reptiles developed a suite of adaptations that allowed them to thrive in drier environments. Their scaly skin helped prevent water loss, and their amniotic eggs, those self-contained life support systems freed them from the need to lay eggs in water. Plus, their lungs became more efficient for breathing air.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. Every new group builds on the innovations of its predecessors. It's like evolution is constantly tinkering, refining, and optimizing.
That's a fantastic way to put it. It's a process of incremental change with each step opening up new possibilities.
So reptiles are ruling the land, basking in their terrestrial glory. What happens next? Who are the newcomers shaking things up?
Well, from a lineage of reptiles, two remarkable groups emerge, birds and mammals.
Hold on, birds came from reptiles. That's just wild. I mean, it seems so different.
I know, right? But if you look closely, there are tons of clues. Their skeletal structure, their scales modified into feathers, their amniotic eggs, it all points to a reptilian origin. Birds are essentially feathered dinosaurs.
Feathered dinosaurs. That's so much cooler than I ever imagined. Okay, so birds take to the skies. But what about mammals? They stay grounded, right? At least most of them.
Well, some mammals took to the air as well, like bats. But you're right, most mammals remain terrestrial, and they developed their own unique set of adaptations like fur or hair.
For her, that's a pretty distinctive mammalian trait. What's the advantage there?
Fur provides insulation, helping them regulate body temperature. It can also serve as camouflage or even as a sensory organ. It's one of the defining features of mammals, along with mammary glands, for milk production.
Milk production, that's another big one. It allows mammals to nourish their young with a specialized nutrient-rich food source. It's like a built-in feeding system.
Exactly. It's a key aspect of mammalian reproduction and parental bear.
Okay, we've covered so much ground from those early simple animals to the incredible diversity of vertebrates. It's mind-boggling to think about the vastness of the animal kingdom.
It really is awe-inspiring. And remember, we've only explored a tiny fraction of the species that exist. There's still so much out there to discover.
That's both exciting and a little overwhelming. But I'm curious, what are some of the big questions that scientists are still grappling with when it comes to the animal kingdom? Where are the frontiers of research?
One of the biggest mysteries is the origin of animals themselves. How did they evolve from those single-celled ancestors? What were the key steps that led to the emergence of multicellular life?
Those are some seriously deep questions. I guess we're still piecing together the puzzle of early animal evolution. What tools are scientists using to try and solve this puzzle?
We're using all sorts of tools, fossils, genetics, comparative anatomy, to shed light on those early chapters of the animal story. It's like a detective story, but on a grand evolutionary scale.
So cool.
Yeah.
What are some other big questions keeping scientists busy these days? What are the hot topics in animal research right now?
Another big area of research is understanding the factors that drive biodiversity. Why are there so many different kinds of animals? What role does the environment play in shaping evolution? How do species interact and influence each other?
Those are some big ecological questions. It's all about understanding the intricate web of life, right?
It is, and we're constantly making new discoveries about how animals adapt to their environments, how they interact with each other, and how they contribute to the functioning of ecosystems. But getting back to your question about hot topics in research, one area that's generating a lot of excitement is animal cognition.
You mean like animal intelligence?
hmm
That's fascinating. What are scientists learning about how animals think?
It's amazing. We're discovering that many animals are far more intelligent than we once thought. They can solve problems, use tools, communicate in complex ways, even recognize themselves in mirrors.
Wow. So are you saying that some animals are self-aware? That's incredible.
Yeah.
What kind of implications does this have for how we understand and treat animals?
It's a profound question that researchers are still exploring. It challenges our assumptions about the boundaries between humans and other animals and raises important ethical questions about our responsibilities towards them. But aside from animal cognition, there's another exciting field you brought up earlier, animal movement.
Oh, right. How can I forget? It's like animal GPS, tracking those incredible migrations, birds flying thousands of miles, whales crossing entire oceans.
Exactly. We're using all sorts of cutting-edge technology to map their movements and understand their navigational abilities. GPS tracking satellite imagery, even tiny sensors attached to animals. It's revolutionizing our understanding of animal behavior.
That's incredible. So what are we learning from all this tracking?
We're gaining insights into how animals navigate the cues they use to find their way around and how they adapt to changing environments. And these insights are not just academically interesting, they're crucial for conservation efforts. By understanding how animals move, we can better protect their habitats and migration routes.
It's amazing how technology is not only deepening our understanding of the animal world, but also helping us protect it.
Absolutely. And speaking of understanding the animal world, there's one more fascinating area of research I'd like to touch on, animal communication.
Animal languages. I've always been fascinated by the different ways that animals communicate, from bird songs to whale calls to those intricate dances of insects. What are we learning about how they talk to each other?
It's a whole world of signals and cues. We're learning about alarm calls, mating rituals, territorial displays, and even social interactions. It's like cracking the code of a secret language.
That's so cool. So are we actually deciphering the languages of different species? I mean, can we understand what they're saying?
We're getting closer all the time. We're starting to understand the meaning of specific vocalizations, gestures, and even chemical signals. It's helping us to appreciate the richness and diversity of animal communication.
That's mind-blowing. It's like we're eavesdropping on the conversations of other species.
You got it.
Yeah.
And this knowledge isn't just for scientists. It can inform conservation efforts, inspire new technologies, and even change the way we view our relationship with the animal world.
I love that. It's all about connecting the dots, seeing the bigger picture, and recognizing the interconnectedness of all life on Earth.
Exactly. And that's what makes studying the animal kingdom so rewarding. It's a journey of discovery, wonder, and endless possibilities.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. From the origin of animals to the latest research on animal cognition, movement, and communication, it's clear that there's still so much to learn. But I have one last question for you. What are some of the biggest challenges facing animals today? What threats are they facing in this rapidly changing world?
Unfortunately, animals are facing a multitude of challenges, many of them driven by human activities. Habitat loss, climate change, pollution, invasive species. These are just a few of the threats that are putting immense pressure on animal populations worldwide.
Those are some seriously heavy issues. I know that habitat loss is a big one. Deforestation, urbanization, agriculture, all of these activities are encroaching on the natural homes of animals. But I'd like to know more about what these threats mean for animals.
Exactly. It's like less space, for animals to roam, to find food, raise their young.
So we're talking shrinking habitats, right?
Yeah, and as we humans expand our footprint, we're fragmenting and destroying those habitats, leaving many species vulnerable. And on top of that, climate change is adding like another whole layer of complexity.
All right, rising temperatures, changing weather patterns, melting glaciers, it's all happening so fast.
Yeah.
How are animals supposed to adapt to these rapid changes?
It's a huge challenge for sure. Climate change is impacting animals in so many ways,
Yeah.
altering their habitats, disrupting their migrations, even making it harder to just find food and water. And, the effects are really only going to intensify in the coming decades.
Yeah, it's a lot to take in. To be honest, it makes me feel a bit helpless. But I also believe we can find solutions. Like we have to work together to protect animals and their habitats.
I completely agree. There's a lot we can do to make a difference. We can reduce our carbon footprint, support conservation efforts, advocate for policies that protect wildlife, and make conscious choices about the products we consume. Every little action makes a difference.
Okay, so we have a responsibility to protect animals, to be stewards of the planet. But I'm also curious, what can we learn from animals? I mean, what lessons can they teach us?
Oh, animals are incredible teachers. They can teach us about resilience, adaptability, cooperation, communication, problem solving. This list goes on. They're masters of survival, having honed their skills over millions of years of evolution.
That's a great point. By observing animals, by studying their behaviors and adaptations, we can gain insights into our own lives and maybe how to navigate our own challenges.
Exactly. By paying attention to their wisdom, I think we can learn valuable lessons about how to live more sustainably, how to connect with nature, and how to appreciate the interconnectedness of all life.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've explored the amazing diversity of the animal kingdom, the challenges they face, and the lessons they can teach us. I'm honestly left feeling both humbled and inspired.
Me too. I think the animal kingdom is a constant source of wonder and inspiration. The more we learn about animals, the more we realize how much we still have to discover.
Well, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into the animal kingdom. You've given me a lot to think about and definitely a renewed appreciation for these incredible creatures.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. Remember, the animal world is full of surprises, and there's always more to learn. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep marveling at the wonders of the natural world.